I'm Barbie with Barbie Does Dating. Your very single host. We have Kristin Sokol, dating coach to the stars. Steve Solberg, buddy man.
Hi.
And we have a guest. Kristin, do you want to introduce?
Yes, I do. We have a very esteemed guest with us today. We have The Art of Healing with Trevor Hanson. Trevor Hanson, The Art of Healing, is here with us today. So everybody celebrate.
I'm excited.
Love this.
First of all, Trevor, I have to ask, how did you find me/this? Because you're in Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Most wouldn't admit this, but I'll be honest. We have a tool that we use that uses AI to match us with podcasts that we might be aligned with. And that tool said, hey, this could be a good one. And we looked at it, we said, oh yeah, that could be really cool. And so then, took a little listen into what you did and decided that yes, this is it. So I come to you thanks to AI.
Well, all these tools that we're using AI for these days, I have to tell you, I'm looking at it constantly as well. Okay, so what I want to know is for our audience, tell them a little bit about your background and what you do and where you are, because I think it's super interesting.
Yeah. So this is a big question. I don't know what version to give you. Do you want the short version or the story?
We got an hour, so whatever you think would fit well with, we have a topic that I want to get to as well, but I want to hear the story and
I'll give you the short long version. So I never thought I'd ever be in this world. I was working a corporate career at Tesla, doing contract negotiations.
That's cool.
Management of stuff. And so while I was there was this big change in the organization. Me and a whole bunch of other people got laid off. And at the time I got laid off, I was also dating in this really, really bad relationship. A lot of what you might label as toxic patterns and things like that going on. And that ended in, flames. It was not a nice mutual, hey, let's walk away. Unfortunately, it was rough. And only because I think I was so insecure that I didn't dare let go of it. And so I stayed and I stayed and I stayed. And then around the same time, I broke my jaw. So I was jobless, I was jawless, and I had broken off the engagement that I had previously had. We were planning on getting married and everything else. And so in that moment, I just went, gosh, dang it, I need help. And so I started going to therapy and started checking some stuff out. Never before had even tried any of that. And along the way, realized, this is really cool. This is a very unique industry. Two parts is one, it aligns with me and I love the idea of maybe helping people in a way that I've been helped. And number two, I started to recognize what I felt were some gaps in the approaches that I had been given by therapists and programs and all sorts of stuff. And I thought, I think I can fill those gaps. And that's where I guess my little bit of a service-oriented business mind kicked in and said, I want to change not only hearts, but see if I can help change the industry in certain ways. And so I went back, I got to school and got a master's of marriage and family therapy, got fully licensed as a therapist, now run what we call the Secure Self Club, which is probably, there's maybe one other that I think we're neck and neck with, that the world's top coaching program specifically for a person who wants to go from anxiously attached to secure. And that's now what we do. We've got 5 coaches on our team and a whole organization around it. And it's been such a blessing.
Wow. Well, after you reached out, I did a little bit of research on you. You've got this giant following on Instagram, over 500,000 followers. So, I mean, clearly you're doing something right. How long has it taken you to build all this?
It's been, let me think. It's been about 3 years, is how long it took me to do this.
Oh, that's like a sprint. I can't believe what you've been able to accomplish. Maybe because I'm on working on such a snail's pace over here.
Yeah, well, for better or for worse, I tend to be fairly aggressive, which and not in not in my approach with my clients, meaning I'm not going to aggressively manhandle somebody into becoming secure. That's not obviously not how it works. But meaning aggressive towards results oriented and doing what it takes to get there. And I think, as we think about even therapeutic or coaching type methods, too often, even in school, I was taught this, like, it's very open-ended. It's very not results oriented in a lot of ways. It's like about the process and all sorts of things. And they really emphasize approaches that are very like led by the client. And though there are some that are more like therapist or coach led, where it's very directive. But coming from Tesla, where things were very results oriented, is like, if you didn't succeed, you were out of there. And it was the biggest startup in the world, is what I called it, because we were always teetering on the edge of like either winning or collapsing. And so for me, that mindset has, I believe, helped me personally and my clients quite a bit, because we look at, okay, what is helping, what's not, and let's just focus on doing what helps a person to succeed.
Yeah. What helps them heal, and what helps them be able to find the results that they're looking for, and get over some of these obstacles that are like seem to be permanently holding back. Yeah. Well, your AI tool is working great. This is like such a good fit. How much do you know about me or about our team here?
Not a ton. So as if I know nothing, will give me the scoop.
Let Barbie just kind of introduce herself.
Oh,
and tell her she's like the queen of this podcast, and the rest of us are just like kind of lucky to be here. So tell a little bit about why this podcast is happening.
I enjoy dating a lot, and a lot of times that means I allow myself to date strange people to get good stories. But I am chronically single. I've been in singles wards forever, blah blah blah, like all that fun stuff. But several years ago, we just started this just for fun. And so Steve is actually a professional stand-up comedian.
Okay.
And he's fantastic. Steve Solberg, if you know him. Yeah.
Nice.
There's Steve.
Nice, Steve.
So Steve's one of my really good friends. And so I asked him if he wanted to do it. And so then I had known Kristin for a while, that she's a dating coach. Well, you started out helping with like dating profiles and things. And so we got to know each other that way. And then I was like, let's just do this podcast for fun. And it's really it's more casual, but I love learning about everything, trying to help people as much as I can. And so when she said you were coming on, I was like, oh, I am chronically anxious attachment. But in the last few years, I feel like I've almost become avoidant because I've overcorrected so hard. And so very curious about that. So there you go. But that's me.
And then let's talk to Steve here, my friend.
What's up, Steve?
Oh, okay, sure.
Say something funny, Steve.
Say something funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's like on Nemo when they're like, "You're a clownfish. Say something funny, right?" And he's like, "I don't know one joke."
And he goes, I got the one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm also here probably because I'm single as well, and I've dated for a long time. But, and I don't know what, this has been one of those things that I have dived in pretty deep on, in terms of I'll tend to either date, and then when I get into the relationship after a few months or so, I tend to go, and I on purpose this may be too much information for the thing. I don't know. Maybe
keep going. We've got an hour.
You're good, brother.
But I tend to sort of on purpose back away from the relationship emotionally, but not physically.
Right.
And I let it fizzle so that I can just be like, well, it didn't work.
Right. Right.
And it's taken me a while I knew that was happening. It's taken me a while to be able to say that's what's happening. And without actually, because there's a lot of pain there. When you let something die, probably because you just aren't willing to possibly kill it yourself or possibly invest in it. I think it can go both ways. Truthfully, now in dating, I've kind of realized that it's like you get out what you put in. And there was this thought, though, that because you'll hear, see, this is hilarious, right? Pretty good stuff. I just realized I'm supposed to be telling jokes, but
no, I appreciate the realness.
He's going deep. I like this.
I didn't mean to do it right.
No, I love it.
This is pretty
It's good, brother.
Part of where were we going with that? So the whole you get out what you put into it type of thing. I think I was I had the opinion that that the right person would make you want to invest. And I don't know, maybe that's true to a certain degree, but and everyone says, hey, you got to be as cautious as you can on the front end when you're dating. But then when you're committed, then you can sort of put on the blinders. So I'm dating, but I have no blinders on always. And by blinders, I mean just like I will see all the faults that they have. I'm not saying that I'm like trying to date other women. I was always like faithful to the person that I was dating.
Right.
But I was still like, but they have this aspect that I don't like. They have this aspect that I don't like. They have this aspect that I don't like. And I think that that was killing the relationships because they go, hey, or when I say the conventional wisdom that I was told is that while you're dating, it's okay to question everything and to be a little bit persnickety. I don't know if that's the right word for this, but nitpicky about things. And then
Yeah.
when you're married, then go ahead and ignore all that. And and I don't know that that's true. Now I kind of have the opinion that it's like you will never know unless you jump all the way in.
Right.
And it's not to say that you're ignorant to the fact that maybe there are things that you go, those don't jive with me, but it's the fact that you
Right.
go, nothing, no one's going to ever fully jive with everything in your world.
Right. Right.
But, and all this is easy to say without the point of finally coming to the point where it's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
the,
Yeah.
the
It-
practice is different. So,
Absolutely. You know, if I can here for a second,
sure.
comment on this. So what you're describing is kind of like in a way, I mean, it's very, I appreciate the authenticity and the realness. And so by saying what I'm about to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying what you're saying is not deep and important because it is. But meaning if you look at different layers of depth on like the issue itself, there's kind of
Hmm.
surface level is functionally, how much should I look at their flaws or not, right? It's a very like tactical approach, very logical, which is important, right? I think you're doing great work at just like asking yourself, okay, hold on, like challenging the way you're thinking and all of that. If we tie it back to the attachment concept, which is kind of what I focus on,
Mm.
the curiosity that I would have is there an underlying, because both for the anxious and the avoidant attachment styles, there's an underlying fear or some people shy away from the word insecurity, but a fear, an insecurity, a worry, a something deep down, a pre-written rule that we live by. For the anxiously attached, it sounds like the pre-written rule or the negative belief is everyone's going to leave me, nobody's going to stay, and so I have to do whatever I can to keep them close. I got to double down. I got to text them. I got to chase them. I got to pursue. I got to make it happen, right? For the avoidantly attached, which is probably more where you're at, it is the fear of rejection, the fear of getting too close, because closeness equals vulnerability, and vulnerability looks like the opportunity for being hurt. And this is a pattern that probably shows up much earlier in life due to like other experiences through relationships. And so it's not so much, well, if I were to play this out and you have that underlying like fear of closeness, fear of rejection, kind of that sense, then you'll use being nitpicky in a relationship as a mechanism of self-protection, right? If I can just nitpick my way out of this and convince myself that they aren't the one, then I protect myself from closeness, connection, vulnerability, all of that, even though there's probably a logical part of your brain that goes, I want all of that. I want closeness. I want connection. That's what the relationship is for. I don't want to do this. I see people getting married and that looks amazing. But then there's the emotional part or the wounded part that goes like, no, we don't want that. That's too scary. And so what do? We just find a mechanism for sabotaging the relationship through being nitpicky. And so, one strategy would be surface level, kind of gauge how nitpicky you are and try to adjust it. Good. That's a great strategy. The better/best or additional, not to throw out what you're saying is as wrong or anything like that, because I think it's right. I think I would go one layer deep is like working to heal the core fears of abandonment, fears of rejection, fears of not being chosen, fears of closeness. And then naturally, the level to which you are setting boundaries and saying, no, that's not okay for me in a relationship. I don't call that nitpicky. I just call that having self-respect and choosing. And also the level of tolerance and flexibility in a relationship and saying, yeah, this is fine. Both of those increase, which leads to more healthy outcomes in the relationship. And so that's really what I focus on, is helping people find what is that core and how can we overcome the core, and then the behavior changes.
And I'll ask, is it important to find out what that fear is? I've had people, I've been diving deep on this type of thing for a little bit, and I remember I had a person who was helping me. She was she used to be a therapist, but now she's a life coach.
Okay.
And just one point said, "What are you afraid of? Can we talk about what that is? Because that's your biggest thing." And I
Yeah.
was like, I I know. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've gone to different therapists, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done all these things trying to figure out what is it that I am, what is that core underlying fear? And
Yeah.
does it matter? Is it, maybe it's a mix of things, and maybe you don't have to find the exact thing, just as long as you go, hey, there's something you're afraid of. So
Yeah.
dive in.
Well, I will say that generally, if you take a shotgun approach at what are the core fears related to like an attachment related challenge, which is maybe what we would describe happening there,
Mhm.
is usually it's some of the things that I mentioned. Fear of abandonment, that will resonate more with the anxiously attached. Fear of rejection, that'll resonate with the more avoidant typically.
Avoidant.
Fear of not being chosen, fear of not being good enough. Those are usually kind of like the ones. And so if you're like, and they're all honestly almost the same thing. And so if a person's working on one of them, they're kind of working on all of them. And so you can kind of put them in a bucket and say, this is probably what leads there. And a really easy gut check is to say like, yeah, do you actually feel any of that come up? Can you start to become aware of it as you get close in relationships? Is that there? And now that you have the list, you have some awareness to look at and go, oh yeah, I actually do feel that fear of like rejection or abandonment or getting too close and then getting hurt. And so that's an easy way of doing it. Another approach is looking at what are unmet needs from my early life. Like, for example, if a person has a very emotionally distant father who basically tells his son that the only feelings that he's allowed to have is anger and happiness. Like, you can get stoked about good things and you're going to be angry when people don't do good things. Sadness is weird. Don't do that. There's no crying. There's none of this, right? If you're going to cry, you go to your room, which means you don't get to be part of the family when you are like that. So maybe a boy grows up learning this. And I'm kind of going down the avoidant track right now. The anxious have a similar but a different story. So you grow up with that underlying message that's like, yeah, if you show anything else other than anger and happiness, then you're exiled. And so therefore, knowing that the unmet emotional need is emotional expression, emotional consistency, somebody that can be there for you. And usually we're protecting ourselves from a fear that has to do with the need. If we flip the need on its head, the need is, oh my gosh, like I just really need, I need emotional consistency. I needed that when I was younger. And now I'm afraid that I'm not going to get it. That somebody's really going to choose me and really going to keep showing up and never actually leave, and that I can be okay with that, and I can trust they're going to handle with care my vulnerable parts of me, right? And so I think there's two ways. One, looking at the shotgun approach, the list of fears, do I kind of feel that way? And number two, what are my unmet emotional needs from the past that might give me clues on what my fears are? But it is very important to find it, because from there you can work on it.
Yeah. And I like that's interesting to say, hey, when you're working on one, it's you'll kind of get the other aspects of it. Because certainly, and I like that you've already pinpointed that I do think avoidant is sort of more on my end of
Yeah,
things.
for sure.
And yeah, when you go, yeah, the 3, 4, 5 things that you listed off, there were a few that kind of stood out that I was like, yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's probably closer, right?
And I'm not even sure what the source of it would be, because in my head, I always go, gosh, I don't know. I've always had such supportive parents and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
and you go, is there something where I think sometimes maybe for whatever reason, we make up our own struggles?
Well,
I don't know.
yeah, you can. You can reinforce your own struggles. I will say, That it doesn't have to be some like egregious event from the past that's like crazy, right? So there's an experiment that they did a long time ago, very attachment related, where they would have a mother in a room with a child who's about, I don't know, like 18 months old, probably about a year and a half. And the mom was responding to the cues of the child. The child would be like babbling and looking at stuff, and she'd, point, and mom would look, and mom's face would kind of reflect what's going on. Just an engaged mom, because the kid's nonverbal at this point. They're too young to be, but they're communicating through emotional expression. And then they would have mom turn away and just go blank face. And the experiment was, what happens to the child? Do they just get curious, or do they keep going, or do they become dysregulated? And the child actually would become dysregulated. They become emotionally having a hard time, crying and things like that. And then mom would come back and soothe the child pretty quickly. This experiment probably wouldn't pass the boards now, because they probably would deem that too invasive for a child. Right?
Yeah,
exactly. But what they found is that dysregulation gave us something really important to think about. It doesn't have to be an overt abuse. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be, I had a mother or a father who was so anxious that they essentially had the blank slate face on most of the time. They weren't online to respond to my emotional cues. They were so busy like figuring everything out and doing everything. Bless their freaking hearts. They maybe had tons of kids, or they were like barely making it, right? They were working a ton, all of those things. It's just, is there a pattern where there was some sort of emotional need, even eye contact, that maybe wasn't consistent as I needed it to be? Some of it, this is a surprising one. I'll give you mine, for example. I think a lot of my anxious attachment style came from being told that my role in the family was the golden child, or kind of this like peacemaker, almost perfect one. It sounds horrible. It's like, sounds like a job interview question where they're like, tell me your flaws. And you're like, I'm too organized, but it's not, it's not that. It's
I guess I'm golden. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm very golden. No,
That's
the issue is if you're told that you're a little golden child over and over again by your family, your brothers, and everything else, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's no blame to be given anywhere. Like that's a fun thing to say to something, and in part I liked it, but also I think it put on this like standard or this pressure that like, Trevor, that is your role, and if you do not succeed in this role of basically being perfect, then, and nobody ever said this or treated me this way, but if you don't perform in that way, then you lose your role. Like, that's what you need to do. That's what love hinges on, is your performance. And so I turned into this performative, anxiously attached person who, on dates, I was always trying to like be somebody that they wanted me to be, guessing instead of showing up as myself, being really anxious that like they didn't like me, and like trying to double down and get that second date before the even first one was over. It's like, chill out, just let her go home and then call her in a couple days when she has time to wonder if you're going to call her back. Just enough time. Don't play games, but just enough time to know that like you have your own life, and that she doesn't become like this idol on the pedestal that you now worship. But I would make them feel that way. And you would think that'd be flattering, but it's uncomfortable for somebody else. It doesn't exude a sense of safety and confidence. So it can come from the most subtle experiences of life. It doesn't actually have to be egregious by any means.
I don't mean to hijack every
No,
comment,
I'm
but
loving this.
I have
this is
three.
really good. This is not where I expected this to go, but I'm loving this.
I have three things from that last thing, and hopefully I remember them all. Just on the last thing, when you were talking about feeling the need to be the golden child on the dates and things like that, and be what they want you to be.
Yep.
I've found that for myself as a entertainer. Like when I'm trying to perform to what I think the crowd wants me to be, the show will go awfully. But if I do what I value, what I think is funny and stuff like that, then people quickly are drawn to it and they enjoy it, and we're all having a fantastic time together.
Yeah.
That being said, I know that, but I've still put myself in scenarios sometimes where I go, yeah, but what, jokes should you do though? And you end up letting that fear of that audience won't like you if you don't do what they think is funny. And so, I mean, that doesn't happen all the time, but it still happens to me sometimes. I'll
Right.
And I'm like, okay, be true to yourself, be true to yourself. And then you're in Philadelphia looking like this, performing in front of an all black audience, and you come out and you're like, "What's up, y'all?" And they're like, "Oh my God." I'm like, well, like, what are you doing? And that's like, that's not who. And so it's like, how do you find that inner strength to be so sure of yourself that you're
Mm,
just like, okay, great, you know that that's what it is. And also maybe it's like, anyways, no, I'm just gonna stop there. I keep
yeah.
talking, adding things. But is there some sort of technique or what type of advice are you
But he
giving?
does want an answer to that.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is this is a bit of a it's hard to answer that question
Hmm.
because there are many things that go into that. But I will say this, at the base, we'll talk about like the method or the theory rather than a specific technique, because the specific technique we can go on for a long time. Like we have the Secure Self Club, our coaching program. It's 4 months of technique and getting deep dive into it. And since we have less than 4 months, let me give you a different version of this. So if we think about an attachment style is just a cute word for our programming on how we see the world, ourselves, our relationships. And an attachment style is formed through emotional experiences, is what we talked about so far, right? The experiences of being the golden child, mom or dad maybe not being quite as present, having just a ton of siblings and kind of feeling like you're not heard or seen. It's you felt something that gave that programming. So like imagine that there's an emotional pen and a logical pen, and they write things into your nervous system. And the logical pen can really only write in where logic is found, in the front part of our brain, the frontal part of our brain. So if you learn things, you logically know them and you understand the concept. So for example, let's say you grow up in a home where somebody consistently tells you that you have infinite worth and value and that God sees you that way and all that other good stuff. And you're like, okay, cool. You know it logically. That's the emotion, the logical pen. But no one has ever, but at the same time, somebody's picking up the emotional pen and writing into the emotional parts of your brain things that contradict that truth, which is like that you're not enough, that people are going to leave you, and all this other stuff. And only the emotional pen can access the emotional part of the brain. It only can write there. And far too often, people are trying to reprogram the emotional part of the brain, which is the anxious attachment, with the logical pen. They're listening to podcasts and reading books and even just talking about their problems till they're blue in the face and building all of this awareness. And it feels like they're making progress because they're so enlightened. They get all these cool ideas and they can teach it to somebody else. But I will tell you this, some of the most dysfunctional people I've ever met in my life are therapists who have PhDs. They know all of it. The logical pen is, man, they're good at that pen. They've got it all full. But the emotional part of the brain has not been accessed. And the way you access it is through emotional experiences. So a person needs to not walk away from a session or a workshop or something going, wow, I feel like I learned some things, or that was interesting. They need to walk away going, oh, I felt something different. I felt compassion for myself. I felt hope. I felt trust. I felt a deep sense of self-worth and value. I like actually tangibly felt it. And then from then on, that's one repetition or one layer of reprogramming the nervous system. And I'm hinting at the second piece that's deeply important. So it's emotional processes combined with repetition. It's not just once you pick up the emotional pen and you have this cool experience where you feel loved and seen and heard, and it's like, oh, amazing. But you need frameworks that can allow you to return to that same process and get in more reps. And so it's emotional experiences on repeat that really reprogram that core nervous system, anxious attachment, avoidant attachment. Great question.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I think I've heard of that with in terms of people talk about the logical and the subconscious type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the emotional pen accesses the subconscious or the emotional part. And you really think about it, it's a different part of the brain. It's like back here by your like neck and kind of ears area where all your emotional content lives. And far too often, we're only turning on the front part of our brain during reading or podcasts or even in therapy often. It's just like, tell me about your week. What was going on? You're just like almost strategizing. And strategy is so much a front brain activity and not a back brain activity. We gotta light up that back brain and give it a new experience in order for it to reprogram.
Trevor, let me ask you this. So, just to give you a little background before I ask this question. So, my role, my title, I call myself an instructional matchmaker. So my
Okay.
primary goal is to get people in the relationship they want to be in. There are obstacles to that, which is why they're coming to me. And then, it's different for everybody. Sometimes we do a lot with attachment styles and bring awareness there and understanding. But there's a multitude of other things as well that would stop somebody from being able to connect in a relationship, even though they really want to.
Yeah.
So I'm not a therapist. Are you a therapist?
Yeah. So I'm a licensed therapist. However, the nature of our work, it's more aligned with coaching. And so I'm probably more in that category now as far as functionally, but
Hmm.
do I have the degrees and all the good stuff? Yes. And have I done therapy?
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, my question is I'm always trying to stay probably more in the logic side of the brain because I'm not licensed to be in that back brain. Like, do you delineate the difference between, that solutions focus and
Yep.
actionable items next step? Sometimes I describe the difference between coaching and therapy, like the difference between archaeology and architecture, right? Where what I'm really trying to do is find out what the client wants, and then we're going to build a strategy to get it. But
Yeah.
when they come to me, the assumption is that they are coming from a neutral place. If they have a lot
Right.
of things that are broken and things that they don't understand about themselves or the past, I probably have to refer them to therapy first to gain some of that awareness, and then they can come to me. But, tell me a little bit more about your approach.
Well, uh, the answer is maybe. And here's the hard part is there's no clean, cut and dry line between what coaching and therapy really is. I
Mm.
just spent quite literally nearly $10,000 on attorney fees to make sure our contracts are sound, make sure that we're doing this right. And even then, the answer is like, well, Trevor, the definition's not like
Well, and
super
it
defined.
depends on which state you're operating in too. And
Kind of things.
yeah, there's a lot
Uh,
of things.
I will say this though. Generally, uh, you're fine to talk about somebody's past and draw inspiration and understanding from that. That totally makes sense. If it's not to say that one licensure gets to monopolize on the idea of like speaking about how somebody's trauma impacted them and like working on that. However, if you are overtly like treating something, you're diagnosing something, creating a treatment plan, doing all of that, then you clearly have crossed the line.
Right.
I'm not like an expert to sit here and say this is exactly what it is and what it's not. But the idea that you can't access emotion from like a coaching lens,
Yeah.
no
Oh
way.
no,
You
it
can
happens all
totally,
the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's a very emotional thing to do for sure.
Yeah,
So I guess my real question was, you're not diagnosing people, you're not acting as a therapist in the work that you're doing. It's more
no.
from a coaching perspective.
No, 100% from a coaching perspective. I mean, a coaching perspective is going to have specific frameworks that you use consistently. It's going to have more action-oriented focuses. It's going to have usually a lot more structure, and a lot more skills-based approaches to give
Yeah.
them a skill that then helps them to access those emotional parts of themselves and so on. Are
Yeah.
there areas both in coaching and therapy where somebody would go, I don't know what the difference is? There will always be those areas, right?
Sure.
Is there a difference between an ecclesiastical leader having an interview with somebody and chatting with them versus therapy? Some of that might look exactly the same,
Yeah.
and you know as well as I do that that person is not licensed to do it. And
Right.
so I think it comes down to also just the personal, just the ethic of like, am I doing something that's out of my depth? Am I serving this person? And doing the best I can to align with what legally we've been told. But yeah, so.
Have you had times where somebody has come to you and they have more work than a coaching capacity that, can really answer that you would refer out?
Yeah, so what we do there is it's not necessarily a full scale like refer out, meaning like we no longer work with them, because that can even just like trigger abandonment.
Yeah,
like
so like it would
feelings,
be
right?
like in addition
It'd be
to.
an addition, right? So like for example, if we're talking about something and there's like a significant emotional dysregulation where they're like, oh man, this is probably beyond what we need to do. We're going to pivot. We're going to pivot, help them get regulated, and then say, you know what, let's probably like pair you up with somebody else. For the most part, we don't have that happen because we do a good job on the front end, getting the right people in.
Who should be in? Yes.
Yeah. So that's an important piece of it. So, and you think about this too. Anxious attachment is not a diagnosis, nor is avoidant attachment. It's a label that helps us to understand a set of feelings and patterns. It's not in the diagnostic and statistical manual. It is, and most people, honestly, who come to us, they're like, I'm not looking for a diagnosis. I keep getting diagnosis, and it's not actually helping me.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything for me. I want to feel more confident. And here's the biggest difference, I would say. One of the big differences in the coaching lens is you're focusing on positive outcome rather than focusing on the problem. Therapy is much problem oriented. Let's fix that. Sure, we talk about that, but ours is we want to help you become secure, confident, feeling good about yourself, hopeful, being able to fill up your own emotional cup, change the patterns in your dating and romantic relationships, whether it's dating or whether you are married. That's what we're focusing on. We're not trying to overcome some diagnosis. We're focusing on the positive outcomes that we're driving you towards, and we have specific exercises, skills, and activities to get you there.
What percentage of your clientele are like single people who are looking to date?
Oh, I don't even know. I would say it's probably just gut check. It's probably about 50-50.
Okay.
And they can be all in the same room, in the same group. Like we do group coaching as part of what we do. And because think about it this way, an anxiously attached person is going to find challenges in their relationships at all different levels of the relationship. In dating, they would look like the story that I talked about. If they're a guy, they're going to experience a lot of rejection because they put too much pressure on the relationship and they're trying to get that second date. They're being a little bit, lacking in confidence and so on. If they're a woman, usually they don't receive quite as much rejection. It's easier to get the dates. But what they will have is that they'll get guys telling them that they'll get further in the relationship usually. And as they get further in, their anxiety, they make it their partner's responsibility to soothe it. You got to tell me I'm beautiful. You got to tell me I'm amazing. You got to show it for me and give. And the other guy's going, whoa, this is a different version of overwhelm. Or it turns into conflict where she is getting critical when he's not showing up in the way that her anxiety tells her that she wants him to. And so that's where the dating people have their biggest struggles. The married is more of the conflict. And this doesn't matter whether it's girl or guy or either way, is that the pattern of I'm going to come at you and instead of ask you for what I need or kind of talk about what I'm feeling, I'm going to come at you with a bit more criticism and judgment because you're not giving me what my inner child tells me I need in order to feel safe right now and soothed in this relationship. It's the projecting of my needs onto you. And when you don't do it, then I come in with you never care about me. You never do this. You always do that. And then you get the avoidant partner who goes, whoa, I feel like a piece of garbage. I'm out of here. And then they start, going away like a jellyfish and you're just never going to get them back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I feel like there's like such an overlap between what you're doing and what I'm doing. And definitely part of I have a bit of curriculum that I'll do with clients and we always visit and understand attachment. And I think for the most part, most people have a basic knowledge of attachment theory, and some awareness about what their style may be. But these things are far more nuanced and far more hardwired in and far more predictive of our behavior or our responses than they realize. right?
Yeah.
And coming to that understanding really is, part of that healing journey to be able to respond better and understand, not only your map of the world, but others' maps of the world as well. And then being able to take all that new insight in to make a better decision about an action moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Um, oh, interesting. Well, this is really fantastic. Well, just so you're aware what this podcast, Steve and Barbie are the daters, and as when it started out, I was an infrequent guest who would come in and to talk about a topic, but the busier Steve got, and Barbie didn't also tell you she is a wedding dress designer.
That's what I do.
Hey, cool.
Yeah. So my life has gotten kind of busy. And so I was like, Kristin, can you kind of take more of a front seat kind of thing? And she
Right.
had. So I have a question for you really fast.
Yeah.
How much of your clientele is men versus women? Because I feel like you would really connect with men incredibly well.
Well, I do. The challenge is, so women tend to be more likely to be anxiously attached than men. As far as, and I'll say that with a caveat, I haven't seen any recent data that like will tell us one way or the other actually. So I'm not speaking from like a research standpoint. I'm speaking from a just exposure standpoint. What walks in my room? Who do I see? And general patterns. I mean, I'm the anxiously attached one, so obviously breaking the mold here. But I will say that anxiously attached individuals are also more likely to seek out help. It just follows their own pattern, right? They're more proactive, oftentimes too proactive in their relationships to where it causes anxiety. And so their proactivity will get them more involved in what we do. At the end of the day, what we do will help an anxious or avoidant equally. We just market to the ones who are ready to sign up from like a business standpoint. It's like, who do we talk to, right? And so we tend to have more women than men, but we always have a handful of guys in almost every, we call them cohorts. It's like a group that goes through at a time. You're working with the same people. They kind of become almost this like family as we do like group calls and other things. So yeah, majority women, and then some men.
And then some men.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like any of our listeners that want to work with you or work with your team, or I was just looking at your social media account and I was like, this is great. You actually are posting things that are very helpful. But what's the best way for people to get in touch with you to possibly work with you?
Yeah. So there's a couple of routes. One is more direct where you're like, this sounds awesome. Like I want to book a call with somebody on his team because we don't just have people sign up. We want to talk to them first to make sure that they truly are a good fit because yeah, it's one of those things where I think I got this ingrained in me at Tesla. We're very results oriented. And if we can't get you results, if I don't feel 100% confident I can get you there, then it doesn't help us and our reputation. It doesn't help you in your progress. So we'll set aside an hour with somebody to really go through like where they're at, what they need, make sure it's the right fit. And you can sign up for that really easily. If you go to like our Instagram and just send us a message like, hey, I want to book a call. I'm interested in the program. Directly on our website, theartofhealingbytrevor.com. If you go to work with me, you'll find a page about the Secure Self Club. You can do that. Also on our website, the main page, there's just a bunch of freebies. If you're like, this was cool, this is a warm up, but I want a second date before I commit to hanging out with you, Trevor. I'm like, okay, your second date is go check out one of my seminars. I got free seminars. One of the best ones is the Anxious to Secure seminar. It talks about the 4 essential things that you must have in your process if you want to become secure. And these are the 4 things that most people are actually missing, even if they're doing all the right stuff. So I'd say check out the seminar or go and directly like book that call and then we'll figure it out from there.
Okay. Because I love your approach. I am so excited to like tell people about this. I'm just really jazzed right now.
Yeah.
So
it's exciting.
it is. It's
This
really
such an
exciting.
obstacle. And FYI, the whole reason that I have this job that I do, I've been doing, matchmaking date coaching for about 20 years. And
Oh, nice.
started as a result of my own anxious attachment style. So, this is like, I feel like I should leave like nobody left behind. And,
Yeah.
once I found, my love of a lifetime, which by the way is to a person who's probably more anxiously attached than me,
Oh, okay.
it's just, it means a lot to help pull people out and help them heal and find this beautiful thing that does exist. No matter where you are, no matter what you are on the spectrum, security can find you. And there's really good research that will back that our attachment styles can and do change,
Yeah.
as we get better tools and pick partners who can be emotionally responsive to us in the way that we really need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's totally flexible. Oftentimes the host will say like, what's your one message you'd want everybody to like take away from this? And I say it's similar to that. It's like hope. It's like you totally can change it. And not only can you change the attachment style, but you can therefore change the patterns in your relationships, right? So for me, it looked like this is when I became more secure, then I let go of the outcome on dates. I was more comfortable. I was more confident. That confidence was attractive. So first off, just level of attraction there, right? I was not putting on too much pressure in the relationships, and they were able to create authentic connection because it just happened when it needs to happen.
And
I
it
was
just
not, yeah, I wasn't showing up as somebody that I thought they wanted me to be. I was showing up as me, and so therefore we had real connection, not them interacting with this character that I play in their life. It's I actually got to connect with them. And it really wasn't until I feel like yeah, it's a spectrum. So take this with a grain of salt. Until I became secure, or at least more secure, that I then was able to even recognize that my wife was the type of person that I'd really want to be with. Because before I was like, oh, I don't know. Not that I would take anybody, but like I definitely had a little bit more desperation in the way I'd see dating. So I could
Sure.
recognize that she was really who I wanted to be with. And I showed up in the right way, in the healthy way. And it turned into now, I mean, I know this kind of sounds cheesy, but I feel like I'm living the dream. I mean, I live literally on the beach in Hawaii with my wife, my son, and we help people to improve their lives. It's like a beautiful thing. And none of it would have happened without the secure, not even the career part of things, without becoming first secure. So the hope is not only you can change it, but in changing the attachment style, you change behavior. And if you change your behavior, you change your outcomes.
You change your outcomes. Well, everything you said, talking about being performative, just I had, so I matched a couple earlier this year, two clients of mine. I matched them together, and it was really fun. It's, it's a little stressful sometimes, but I enjoy it when it happens to kind of hear both sides and adjudicate both sides and keep both confidences.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of performativeness coming from one side, and when we are able to bring awareness to that and just say, hey, no, like I matched you because who you actually are is a good match for this person, everything changed, right? And everything falls much more into place, and they're engaged. And it's very one of what did I tell you I was at? 14 engagements this year. So
Hey,
it's
whoa,
it is exciting to
that's
see the fruits
intense.
of these. Yeah,
That's such
no,
a
it
that's
really
such a
is.
wild thing to be like doing. I think that'd be that'd be kind of stressful, like actually matching people. I have had the thought before because it's not I don't think in my realm appropriate for me to do it, but I have had the thought like, gosh, I could really introduce you to this one because it's like two people that I've worked with that have like gained their confidence and everything else, and I'm like, oh man, that's really cool. So
Yeah.
that's props to you for doing that.
Well, it's a lot of fun and it's very rewarding. Any parting words that we have or that you would want to share with us, Trevor?
I just want to make sure people know that your Instagram is The Art of Healing by Trevor.
You got
And
it.
I'm just sitting here just like flowing through it. And I'm like, this is going to
There's
be,
good stuff in
there's
there.
a reason that your following has grown so fast. I really love your approach. This is
Hmm.
fantastic.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, and I will say if you go and you follow us there, go take advantage of something free. I've got so many free like seminars and things, and they're not just fluff to get you to like join our program or something like that. Obviously, we love having people in there, but my theory is I want to give people such tangible value that they like can't help but want to work with us. And so know that going into any of the free offers we have. We breaking the cycle is a free one. We've got one on like identifying what your boundaries should even be, because most people don't even know how to like start that. We've got the one I mentioned. There's so many great free resources. So just start there. And if it works out, that's great. Then we'll jump on a call and figure out if you actually want to do the deeper work with us.
Well, and the same for us, like this is a great opportunity for our audiences to sort of cross-pollinate, because once we've done that deeper healing work, this podcast and my work is to help you put it into action, and let's get you the strategy that you need for what you're going to do this Friday night, and strategies that you're going to do during that time on Friday night.
Yeah.
And I really think if you can send us some whole people who are much more secure than they ever were, and we can get the wedding bells to ring.
Yeah, for sure.
Any more?
Any other thoughts?
I mean, the last thing I want to know is where in Hawaii are you at?
So I'm on the North Shore of Oahu.
Oh, okay. I went to college out there, so.
Oh, you did?
In Laie, yeah.
Okay,
Where you at on
amazing.
North Shore?
What was that?
Where are you at on the North Shore?
So I'll tell you if you don't publish it, because we don't tell people specifically what town.
Okay, yeah,
we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it offline.
Okay.
I used to go surf out there on like we did log cabins and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But not
Totally.
like not right now, right? Like log cabins are probably going nuts right now.
Yeah, it's starting to get bigger.
And stuff
Yeah.
like that. Are you near VLAN?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I surf VLAN, I surf log cabins, Rockies, all of it. Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you ever run into what is it? Like Eddie Vedder surfs VLAN, right? Doesn't he live in that little community, right?
You know, you'll meet all the legends. I mean, I'm literally out there and I'm like paddling out with Jack Johnson, and you'll
Jack
see
Johnson's right there too.
Yeah, you'll see like Jamie O'Brien and his crew doing crazy things at Pipe in the winter. Like it's not a very big place, and so you run into the legends consistently.
North Shore is tiny, and so yeah, it's like I forgot Jack Johnson's right there. That's a beautiful. If you're that community right there is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I was in Kauai last week for the first time, and it was gorgeous.
Wow, beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Trevor, for visiting us today, and we have all gotten a lot out of this conversation, and thank you.
I'm so glad.
And I guess last thing we'll say is let's do this again sometime.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.